And yep, there you go. Everybody, thank you very much for coming again tonight. Oh, I'm sure everybody's fucking stressed if you're all, I don't know, in the UK or not in the UK. We're both in the UK, so we're stressed. Yeah, so everybody, if you don't know who Catz is, Conspiracy Catz that is, man, do you want to let everybody know?
Yeah, sure. Well, I've got a few channels these days. So Conspiracy Catz, Baldy Cat. I mean, how long have I been doing that now? About 18 months. Just poking gentle fun at things like flat Earth. I've also got an educational channel. I'll just shield this right from the beginning. It's not monetized, so I'm not shielding it for that reason. But if anybody's doing any homeschooling with the kids, I've got a channel called Catz Science and Maths, and that's the account I'll be typing in the chat tonight. So if you've got any kids that are struggling for science stuff at home, that's my new sort of baby. That's the thing I'm trying to push at the minute.
And you actually are a teacher as well, yes?
Yeah, I trained in 2001, I think. So I'm now 40 now. Yeah, I trained about 2001. But that's coming to an end for me very soon. I've done my stint, and I'm looking into becoming a full-time sort of personal tutor and earn my money that way. But I'll be staying in education no matter what. I think that's what I'm good at. I'm not good at anything else. Too late to become a professional footballer. What do you think?
Yeah, no, that 40 is the magic number. Like, I've been working for the same company for 20 years, and if I don't start my own business doing what I've been doing for 20 years, by the time I'm 40, I'm stuck there for the rest of my life. It's take the information and what I've learned and move on, or as you say, man, you get stuck and you don't want to be in that situation. And yeah, education is still key, especially as a personal tutor. You get a wee bit more hands-on hand, one-on-one, and the standing in front of a class with 50 kids screaming at them that this is what they have to memorize on the board is not the best way to teach kids.
I think you get there's good and bad in both of it. When you're teaching groups of 30 kids, sometimes it's the best thing in the world. Sometimes you get a class who are just absolutely amazing, and the feedback you get from them and the enthusiasm, and because of that, you can do all sorts of wonderful stuff with them. You can take them outside. You can do, experiments that would be normally a bit too dangerous for the classes, and it can be amazing. But then, sometimes you might get a class of just 10 kids who, for various reasons in their own life, their own context, they don't want to be there. They're not interested. Their attendance is poor, so when they turn up, they don't know what's going on, and then it's a bit more like pulling teeth, and that's difficult. So it has its ups and downs. But the tutoring, people are there because they want to be there. It's more one-on-one. And as I'm getting older, I'm getting older now. I could do with stepping away from the stress of it all and just dealing with the one-on-ones. You know what I mean? I'm not getting any younger.
What is your degree in? Mathematics or?
I did. Oh, I think I've got the watch page playing. Sorry, mate. I'm just going to mute us.
Yeah.
That's a schoolboy error, isn't it? I shouldn't have done that. I do apologise for that. Did it come through? Did it come through on the
No,
thing?
We didn't hear it.
Oh, cool. Right, must just be me. Yeah, I've forgotten what the question was. Sorry, go on.
Your actual degree. What is it you teach? What did you get your degree in?
Well, I got my degree in biology, and then I did a master's in. The official title was environmental science and ecology, but the dissertation I did was evolutionary biology. It was all on sexual selection. But then when I started teaching, sort of like 20 years ago, the first school I started teaching at needed a physics teacher. So even though that wasn't my specialism, that's what started in 20 years ago. So I've had 20 years of teaching physics and up to A level. And so it wasn't my qualification, but I'd say it's my strongest subject now, if that makes sense. But I still teach all three.
Oh no, physics is definitely my background. I'm still friends with my physics teacher from high school. He was a fantastic physics teacher. I did maths, chemistry, biology and physics for A level, and then spent a year in Queen's. I was hoping to go on to be an astrophysicist, but life got in the way. But I did spend just over a year at Queen's doing maths, physics and advanced maths. I didn't follow it through, but it's still definitely a passion for me, hence the name MathPig. And
yeah, well, maths and maths at A level and advanced maths, further maths, that's hard. That's not easy stuff. I think your maths and your physics at A level, if anything, are harder than the first year or two of university. just at university, you get a bit more specialised, don't you, into a specific area. But that jump from GCSE to maths at A-level certainly is massive.
Everybody left after the A1. Whenever we moved on to the A2, there was 4 of us doing 4 A-levels, and we were all doing physics, chemistry, maths, and biology, and they all dropped maths. Every fucking one of them but me. They absolutely hated it. They stuck it a year. They were like, no, I don't need 4. I'm not going back, no. And they all left, and it was just me and the teacher.
Yeah, I don't blame it. It's not easy. It's a massive jump. We see that with physics, people doing A-level physics, because there's a lot of maths in the A-level physics as well, obviously. And after getting out Christmas, they're thinking this is not what I expected. It's hard, but it's fun as well. I think it's rewarding. If you like problem solving, you're the kind of guy that likes to sit down and do a few puzzles or something. I think it's I think it's a rewarding subject. It has that element to it, doesn't it?
Well, what I'm actually, I say working on, I haven't went near it in maybe fucking 6 months. I've got a few scribbles down, and I'm trying to get them do sometimes people are going to laugh, but a funny equation, when you get like a funny equation and they're humorous, like, and I'm trying to combine them into constants, and then when you add, subtract, divide, or whatever, all the constants, it equals 28 to 20, 38, which is the day, the month, and the time that my daughter was born.
Oh, that's nice little thing to work on. Yeah, I like that.
But then I'm going to get it as a band, you see. I don't want to write down all the numbers, so it'll be like, I've got Planck's constant, I've got speed of light, and things like that, and I've got E, and I want to write them symbols down, plus, minus, divide, or whatever, equals 28 to 20, 38, and that being the answer as a band for around my arm as a tattoo for the daughter,
That'd be amazing. That I've just clicked on the watch page, and I am still very pixely, aren't I?
Yes.
Is that my end?
That is probably your end.
Because all those things I said before, I'm now no longer using my internet, so that just must be my internet speed at the minute. I'm sorry about that. It will clear up. It always does in the past, but it's so I do apologise, mate, for that.
It's all right. We all know what you look like. You're just a baldy man like me, although my beard's a wee bit better. But no, like the girlfriend says to me, just write them down and get the fucking tattoo done. And I'm like, no, because that one time you're somewhere and a maths teacher walks over to you and goes, that's not right, That would just fucking, no, it has to be right. It has to be right.
I genuinely had that with a friend at university, and he'd been learning Japanese, and he got something. I can't even remember now what it was supposed to be on his arm in Japanese. I think it was tiger or way of the tiger, like something like that. And a Japanese student did come up to him and say, "Oh, that looks really nice." What language is that? Because he'd be learning Japanese. Like, well, that says tiger. It's like, no, I don't even recognize the language. It's just noise. It's just symbols.
Yeah, that's it. They just look good. Yeah, they just look good. Yeah. Well, just as you say, your main was environmental science. If you look in the chat, we have Mama Atheist. Mama Atheist is actually a climate scientist who has worked for... She was the one that told Mark Sargent to go suck her dick on Sunday.
Wow. Well, I've got to take my hat off. If I had a hat on, I would take that off to you. That's pretty cool. That's pretty high level stuff.
Well, it's Mark Sargent. He's not... It's Mark Sargent.
Oh, that's. Oh, excuse me. That's really, so like a proper climate scientist, like working on, like what weather, global warming, what?
Yeah, global warming. I was texting her the other day, and she was like, "I'm knee deep in permafrost." It's like, okay, I'll just let you do what you're doing. Then, like, she also worked for NASA. She has a flight suit and all. She's probably the most educated person here.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. Is that? That's hats off to you, and that's fantastic. If I'd have been anywhere near clever enough, I'd love to be, a scientist for real, but I wasn't, so I'm teaching it.
Well, what brought you to the internet with the flat Earth thing? Because you are known for the flat Earth.
Yeah, it actually started off in the classroom. Funnily enough, I had a channel which I've deleted now because it belonged to a school that I used to work with. And it was an education one where I just put revision videos up, similar to the cat science and maths thing I do now. But it was purely for a school. And one of the kids at that school they'd seen a flat Earth video, and they'd said, why doesn't the water stick to a ball, etc. And I saw an idea. I thought, this kid never usually was interested, and I thought, the class, it was one of those classes I mentioned before, the disinterested classes. And I thought, if I could get an interview with a flat earther on a YouTube channel, then maybe the kids would see that as something to get interested in, and then we could just debunk and the flat earth nonsense in the classroom. And I ended up, it was Sleeping Warrior, he replied, and I did an interview with him. But then the kids weren't interested, but I was so annoyed afterwards with the absolute nonsense Sleeping Warriors mentioned. I thought, I've got to start a different channel where I can respond to this. I couldn't do it on the schools one. So that's where Conspiracy Catz come from.
And the cats, well, obviously with the conspiracy, but what's the cats bit? Are you a cat fan or are you a dog fan?
Oh man, honestly, it's the most uninspiring story. I've been asked a couple of times. I always feel like a really boring person when I give an answer to this question, because the whole name Conspiracy Catz, I was actually in the classroom and the kids were about to come in, and I was setting up the YouTube account, and I thought, what can I call it? And I thought, I don't know, I'll put anything in for now, and then I'll just change it. So I just thought, right, Conspiracy Catz. I whacked that in because it had a ring to it. I thought I'll change that when I get home, and I never did. So there was no thought behind it. It's the first thing that popped into my head, and that's literally it.
It's quite funny that it's something similar to mine. I had a really long name. It was Math Magic Pagan. I don't like being put in a box, and I joined through the skeptic and the atheist community. So it was to try and give myself my own box rather than being put under a label. But it was too goddamn long. Far too fucking long. And then someone else shortened it to MathPig, and I changed it one day on a whim and then got stuck with it. And it was like, yeah, we're just running with this now.
But it works. I like it. It's a good name. It's nice and short, concise. It's got a bit of punch to it. I like it.
Yeah, and I've ran with the whole thing. We've been very lucky. There's a person, I think is he in the chat? Easism Works in the chat, does all the artwork, most of the artwork for the channel, and the Pigsty ID in the background and all. And we've been working back and forth. He's been very patient with me. He literally is the decent person that you can tell him, no, that's fucking shite. I don't like that. Can you change it? And he doesn't take offense, and it gives you the ability to get something that you're really happy with.
Yeah. Oh, it's good to have people like that you can be frank and honest with, isn't it? Rather than people who will, the moment you disagree or something, they can get a bit sour. It's good to have people.
Yeah, the music that you hear in the back, well, you not hear it, but the music you heard in the background when you were watching the Digital Hammurabi one, there's another guy in the chat there, Kevin H, he made that. My intro was made by another person. Been very lucky that people have skills and are willing to contribute and help each other out.
No, it's lovely. It is lovely. And just looking at the people in the chat, I just want to say a big hello to Bill Ashby. I think he was, I don't know what number subscriber he was with me, but I remember he's been there for a very, 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 very long time, and he's always posted and commenting on my my videos and stuff. He's always been super polite and nice. So I just wanted to say hi to him.
Yeah, Bill's actually come over from England and spent a couple of days here. I've had Bill under my roof, so to speak.
Ah, right. Well, I've got a lot of time for him. He seems like a really, really nice bloke.
No, he's a fucking asshole. He's a fucking asshole.
Never meet your heroes. Couldn't wait to get him out the house.
No, we love Bill. We do. We love Bill. Bill's going to start a channel now about a little tiny dog if he gets a little tiny dog.
Excellent. I'll shout it out.
No, there's a lot of good people in the chat. We've got Mama Atheist there, as we mentioned. We've got Dave. Dave is Critical Cripple. Very strong supporter of the community. Helps out with everyone. He's posted your links on all your channels. He's went and found every one of them. Been popping them in the chat for everybody. He's a good lad. And lots of other good people there.
Oh, that's brilliant. No, it's good. Like I say, it's good to have this. And your channel will grow, and it will grow fast, and you'll get lots of people. But, the people that are here now, it'll be great in 12 months. Because you'll still see them around, the good people, and it's nice. That's what I mean when I'm talking about builder. It's just nice to have face, names that you recognise, because it'll get crazy. 12 months, and it'll be very difficult to keep up with all the comments. So it's nice to see familiar faces.
Yeah, I used to just make everybody blue if they hung about long enough, and then I was like, right, everybody's blue. I don't know who's doing what or what the fuck, so I had to wipe all the wrenches, and I was like, right, 10 wrenches, and I think it ended up with 17. It was like, fuck. Out of all the in your videos, as we mentioned before we come online, the only flat earther bar actually Mark Sargent's conversation, that I wouldn't use the word follow. I would say pop into their live chat and fucking have some fun. Would be Dale. Dale, I seen the very first time in the non sequitur with his other mate, and they were just screaming. And did you remember that, the pure rage thing that he did with the wanker and all the rest of it? It was, who the hell is this madman?
Yeah, that was embarrassing. I mean, where'd you go with that? You know, and the point that behaviour started was, I think Jen Panda had asked the question, why do we have a pressure gradient and how far up does it go? You know, and all they wanted was a simple answer to that question. But it's like, you know, you had Mark Sargent on the other day, and you were talking to him when he rage quit about gas pressure. You made a very, very good, clear point about gas pressure, and he walked off. You know, they make a very good point about the pressure gradient in the atmosphere, and you get, you know, you just got abuse back for it. And I think it just shows the mindset that these people, they don't understand themselves what they're talking about, and they don't like that being shown up.
Oh, he totally showed his cognitive dissonance there towards the end. It was like, I'm not going to change my mind. You're not going to change your mind. You know, what's the point of this conversation? It was like, right, okay then. But
yeah, it's amazing to watch.
Do you have a favourite flat earther that you would laugh at rather than actually have an interaction with, other than Dale?
Laugh? You mean laugh at or laugh with?
Oh, what do you call that flipping idiot in the garage? Is it Ranty? Ranty? No, it's not Ranty. It's poured the water. Poured the water in the bowl and it attached to a drill.
Oh, is that Execrate 200? No,
I have his name written down.
If not, his name was what? Sorry,
I have his name written down here somewhere. I've written it down for the fucking shit with Mark Sargent. No idea where it is. No, he's a bloody idiot.
Well, that whole thing as well. You're like sticking a because I've seen that video on Execrate 200. He must have mirrored it if it wasn't him. Yeah, you know, you've got. I mean, how fast does a drill bit even go around? How many times a minute is that?
Daniel Pratt.
No idea. Daniel Pratt.
Daniel Pratt.
I feel, to be honest, I feel for Daniel Pratt. There are some people I look at and I think you're totally disingenuous. I would say, in my opinion, you know, people like Nathan Oakley, they see flat earth as a way to make money, and they don't care if they lead people down the path that they believe it. You know, I see people who genuinely believe it, and I know I poke fun at Del, but I think Del genuinely believes it. It doesn't monetize anything. And I think he's sticking to his guns, which in a way I can respect, but then there are the people who are led by those people, and I think Daniel Pratt is one of those. I think he's just led by these other people. He listens to what they say, and they're dragging him into dark places, you know. So I feel for him, but you know, he might not care about that.
I would watch him for entertainment, or used to watch him for entertainment. You know, he's just, oh my goodness. Tau Ceti Alpha does really good. Do you like the Tau Ceti Alpha? Do you know of him?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
He released, was it a couple of days ago?
33 or 34 or something, yeah.
I've got it on my watch list to watch. I've not seen it yet, but they are brilliant. You know, he must spend, I don't know how long putting all those together.
I think it's episode 16 or 17. There's the guy walking around the shop and he's like, do you know what the biggest question in the world is? He's been on a few times. He's just some of them people he finds are... I'm at a loss for words. An absolute and utter loss for words. Personally, from my point of view, the reason that these people... Well, I'm not going to put it solely down to this, as I maybe a tier 2 earlier. I'm not a big fan of the education system as it stands now. And the whole idea of just being told something and regurgitating it back up again, and the fact that someone from authority spoke it, gives it power. Now we have the internet and the YouTube channels and all the rest of it, and if someone has 1.2 million subscribers, that doesn't give them authority, you know, but people put them in that position of authority. They then can say whatever the fuck they want, and you have a load of people who have no logical thinking skills whatsoever because they were never taught that. And yeah.
I you're right. I mean, coming from an education background, I don't know if you were that. I think the government obviously thought something similar a few years ago, because they changed, at least in science anyway, they changed the way science was being taught. And it's not, it used to be, when I first started off teaching, the amount of content we had to get through, there's still a lot, but just the amount of facts we had to deliver, people was absolutely enormous. But now a large part of the any of the teachers out there will know what I'm talking about. We talk about AO2, AO3 parts of the topic, the different skills that the kids have to be able to access. So now when they sit a GCSE exam, it's only a minority. The first, I think, 20-30% of the marks are facts, pure facts that they've got to regurgitate. Other than that, it's the ability to analyze data, draw conclusions, analyze how an experiment's taken place, put forward arguments, etc., interpret. It's much more skills based than it was, and I think that's a good thing, because I think rewinding back to how the curriculum was 10, 12 years ago, there will have been people, we said before, didn't we, that people struggled when they went to A-level.
Yeah.
And I think the reason they struggled when they went to A-level is because they were lacking a lot of those skills, lacking a lot of the ability to work and learn independently and to figure things out. And I think they are trying to fix that, certainly with science at the minute. But yeah, it definitely had issues, definitely.
Yeah, I love, as I say, MathPig, all that. Numbers. My wee girl just turned 3. She can now count to 11. I am so fucking proud of that. And she can do it all by herself. 1, 2, you put the fingers up, she counts them. She knows that things have numbers, She's aware and she's very inquisitive. And I just push that inquisitiveness. And the fact she can count to 11 at that age, I've only got one kid, so I don't know if that's great, but that's fucking amazing,
Well, I mean, you hit the nail on the head there. The inquisitiveness is what's going to stand her in good stead. When you get older and you want to learn certain things, and you know what? The whole homeschooling thing at the minute is harsh for the kids, and I agree with it. Don't get me wrong, I agree with it. A lot of kids are going to suffer, but it does give parents a chance, those who've got like inquisitive kids, to really fuel them. What do you want to learn about? What do you want to do? And really fuel that side of it, rather than have them learning stuff they're not so enthused about.
Oh, yes, I'm a mechanic. She has her own wee boiler suit. She comes out and helps me work at the car and all. Oh, she lifted my woman's keys one time and went out, got into the car, put them in the ignition, took the damn thing out of gear, and we caught her trying to reach the pedals. And that was only when she was like 2.5. It was like, damn, don't be fucking watching daddy that much. Get out of the car.
That's brilliant, though. But it's something good to foster, isn't it? That inquisitive mindset, and I love it. And I think it's flat earthers say the same, but I think they apply it in definitely the wrong way.
Oh yeah, Sorry, go on.
Well, I'll just say they say ask your own questions, but then the way they apply that whole ask your own questions mindset is to start off from the viewpoint that everything you're told is a lie, and therefore even if you don't ask questions from that point, you just don't believe anything. And that's what I seem to. I don't see anybody actually asking questions. I see people saying, this is a lie, you're wrong, but then no understanding underneath it.
Yeah, I straight up asked Mark that question. I was like, all I'm hearing from you is you telling me what's wrong. Like, what is it that you have that proves your point? Rather than saying, this is wrong with no basis. It's a silly way to come approach things. It's a esoteric method, or there's a name for it. I found the name for it when I was looking up stuff from Mark. Esoteric or something like that. It's based on exactly what you said, man. Going in with a conclusion pretty much already get-go, and basing things more on your sights and your feelings and shit like that. But we're completely flawed. The human body to measure things is completely flawed. You have to put your faith in the science sometimes. You really do.
Yeah, you do. And I mean, the human civilization, they did start off, didn't they, drawing conclusions from what they could see, and like spontaneous generation, in the past, I was teaching that a couple of weeks ago to my year 7s, people looking at food going off. Where did this mold come from? Where did these maggots come from? And they come to the conclusion that they just appear magically inside the food, but then, we move on from that because we learn other things, we learn about microbes, but I think the flat earthers, it's enough for them to say people used to think that the earth was flat because that's what our senses tell us. And then that's it. They just want to wind the clock back. They don't care about any advancements that were made since then. They just don't care.
No, they have no consideration for the actual people who have put the time and the effort in, and could have possibly spent 30 years on just this one question, or this trying to do this one thing. And it's like, this guy spent his entire life, listen to the man. He knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, and I know the whole appeal to authority argument. I understand it, and I know that it's got some validity to it, but also you've got to accept the fact that some things just are really, really, really complicated, and you can't judge everything on just what your senses tell you. I mean, me and AB Science. Are you familiar with AB Science?
I popped into your the live video there last week you had. I'm not sure.
I remember. Yeah, you did. Yeah. Well, he was teaching me something about kinetic energy and reference frames, etc. Mm-hmm. And as he was going through it, I was thinking, bloody hell, I'm going to have to go over this a couple of times because, the guy obviously knows what he's talking about. And you've just got to have a respect for the fact that there are levels and there are depths that in all areas that people don't go to. I mean, like, you're a mechanic and, I could point to the bits of a car engine and tell you what they do, but, you would understand that to such a massively bigger depth than I would. Mm-hmm. That would take me years and years and years and years to understand, and it's the same with all areas of science, isn't it? But the flat earthers, they've got no respect for that at all.
No, and they take it like Mark was screaming and shouting at me and telling me that Neil deGrasse Tyson was my science god, and I'm like, no, he's not. Oh, he is. And then he Mickey Picchu, or whatever you call him, the other guy, and Brian Cox, and ringing off all these names. He's like, they're your three gods. These are your guys, and I'm like, no, they're not. It's like my favorite scientist, or whatever you want to call it, would probably be Mark Tagmark, and he was like, never heard of him, so he doesn't matter. That's not no. You can't just say that. It's like, he probably is a better, he's into his physics and all that, and that's his thing. And he's a communicator, but he's not as big as fucking all these other boys. But that doesn't mean that because Neil deGrasse Tyson says it, it's true. And he said it does. And I'm like, it doesn't. When he says something, if it's based in science, fine. Happy days. Thank you very much, science. But if he says this, that, and the other, that's his opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's it. And he comes out with some nonsense, Mark Sargent, that's never questioned by other flat earthers. Have you seen his speech where he says that he was approaced by
I didn't get to that. Yeah, the 5 questions at the Canadian conference. I had it written down. I didn't get to that. I blame Mama. She told him to suck her dick.
But it's just the arrogance. He stands up with this. I had these 5 questions, and I sent them to the scientists, and none of them could answer. None of them. It was impossible, And all the crowd are just in silence agreeing. And then when he reels the questions off, I thought, a year 11 student could answer those. It's like they've not replied to him because they are ridiculous. If somebody wrote, if someone wrote to me and said, "Prove to me that your house isn't made of jelly," I'm not going to respond. And what he's done is just as daft.
That's a very good analogy. We'll definitely go with that. House of jelly, flat earth.
Yeah.
But that's another thing I got him to admit was it's not actually a flat earth in a dome. It's a simulation of a flat earth in a dome.
See, that whole simulation theory. Now, if you're going into like the world of philosophy and stuff like that, like I'd love talking about stuff like that. Yeah. Because even your Michio Kaku's or whatever say that one day that we if we were in a simulation, we wouldn't know, we wouldn't be able, and those are fascinating conversations to have. And as sci-fi as they sound, they've got a million times more I will put it credibility to it than flat earth. But a flat earth simulation, that is amazing.
Yeah, it's a flat earth simulation, and there's multiple dimensions outside of it, this simulation dome, that you will have no physical body in, just a husk, oh my goodness.
But like a flat earth with a conspiracy a simulation of the earth with a conspiracy to hide the shape of the earth programmed into it.
Yep.
That's fantastic. But, where'd you go with that?
Oh man, I didn't know where to go with that. Then I started asking him what was the whole point of it, and it was, you created one, you're going to create them all, and there's all this. I even said to him, if you go down the route of the simulation theory, there is probabilities out there that if you could create one, you would create more. And because you can create multiple ones, we wouldn't know. If you look at it that way, the odds that we're in a simulation are very high.
Yeah, and that's brilliant conversation to have, and I wouldn't have an answer to that at all, because we just wouldn't know. And at some point in the future, assuming that the Earth civilization isn't wiped out by something before then, we are likely to become advanced enough to create these little civilizations, these digital worlds, aren't we, with artificial intelligence. So how do we know that we're already not at that point in the future? And it's I have no idea. It's way out of my league, that kind of stuff, and it's fascinating.
Does it make any difference to how you live your life? No, simulation or not, it's real to us. I can reach out, I can touch you, I can use the internet. Well, I'm not going to touch you, but I can use the internet. We can communicate, It, relative to us, it doesn't really matter. It's just a fun conversation to have. But
it is.
Yeah, it's a dome. It's a simulation of a dome.
A simulation of an invisible dome that nobody's ever seen or touched, that for some reason is containing a atmosphere with a pressure gradient.
The pressure gradient's there because it's a pressurized system. He didn't even understand that either.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Well, so how was he when you like in your dealings with Mark before you had him on? Was he difficult to get on? Was it just a case of an email and then
I just sent the man an email. Sent the man an email. I seen him he was on UTV a couple of months ago, and me and the boys at work know that I do this, and we were just talking about this, that, and the other, and I was like, oh no, there's crazy people out there, like flat earthers and all, and he was like the guy on UTV, and then I looked it up because I don't have TV, and I looked it up, and I was like, oh fuck, that's Mark Sargent, and I know that he's done interviews because I've seen him on other small channels. There was one, it was nearly 3 hours long. I can't remember whose channel it was, but I know that he would be up for it. So I just got hold of his email, sent it off to him, 4 or 5 emails, and we were time and date set.
Listen, I think he does do I've seen a couple on like new channels just starting out. I know he avoids like the plague bigger channels. He avoids sort of what you class as a debate. Yeah. Which, obviously he rage quit on your channel, didn't he? He stormed off and...
Yes, just... yeah. Our pressure scared him.
But I don't know, he's a character, isn't he?
Well, no, I thought whenever we had our conversation, I'll have, a heated conversation. I don't like having debates, but I am more than happy to have a heated conversation. And it's never to convince the other person, it's more so for the people that's watching, because... As Mark said, you're not going to change my mind, I'm not going to change your mind. And we're here for entertainment. People don't come to the fucking channel to watch because I'm smart. They come for the entertainment, more so the Irish accent. But I'll have a heated debate with someone, but I prefer a conversation. And me and Mark's conversation went really well. I personally think we had a bit of back and forth. He threw me at the start with something I'm not going to mention. But after I got myself gathered again after that, it was grand. And I thought he was a good person to talk to.
Yeah. Well, I think, you're right. He does come across as being, very articulate and well-mannered and polite, etc. And regards to like throwing you something at the beginning, the arguments that they bring are so far from left field sometimes that if you've never encountered them before, you're not fully sure what the hell it is they're talking about, And it's very, I remember getting into the scene and hearing some of these arguments thinking, what are you talking about? And sometimes you can't just answer them there on the fly, 10, 15 minutes research and you realize what the mistake is. But, you can't just answer them there on the fly. And it is easy to be thrown. That's why I took so long before I did my first debate, because I wanted to make sure that didn't happen,
Yeah, to be prepared for the left field shot that comes out of nowhere. Which it clearly was. Like, I had pages of questions here, and it was just like, what the fuck? That's not even on topic. Where the hell did that come from?
Yeah. And then a lot of what's mixed in is, I'm not going to say lies necessarily, but it's just mistake. They may do an observation from somewhere, but they've not, properly had the heights and the distances surveyed, and they give you these numbers, and they'll say, well, there you go.
Man, he came out with the 8 inches per squared mile. 8 inches per squared mile. He was like, these people. I was like, if you ask the people that use this, they'll tell you it's not for this.
That's it. You never want to have that conversation, though, do they? You know,
No,
they've got 8. Sorry, go on.
I just said no. I'm in agreement. He did not want to have that conversation.
They don't at all. You know, they've got 8 inches per square mile is one thing that they just say, but they don't understand. Second law of thermodynamics is something they say, but they don't understand.
That fucking boils my blood. That personally, for me, I don't. If someone says you're breaking the law of thermodynamics, that literally boils my fucking blood. Now, I say I like physics and all the rest of it, but that is my one trigger. Now, not a lot triggers me, but someone misrepresenting the. Oh.
I remember, I mean, it was a while ago now, so, I mean, I don't know, probably most people have not seen it, but I did a debate against Nathan Thompson on Simon Dan's channel, and the very first piece of evidence, if you like, Nathan Thompson brought, he said, how can you have an atmosphere next to the vacuum of space when it defies the second law of thermodynamics? Now, I knew he was going to say that because he always says it.
Yeah.
So I had a little PowerPoint prepared with just some very simple second law of thermodynamics terminology. So microstate, macrostate. I think I had Maxwell's demon in there as well. And I said, well, can you explain to me what the second law of thermodynamics is using these terms here, microstate and macrostate? Because anybody who knows second law of thermodynamics knows that is the very, 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 very basic. And it was hilarious. Like, I've never seen anybody trip over the tongue as often and avoid the question. And I think that's just the best thing you can do with these guys. When they say second law of thermodynamics, is just to say, put them on the spot. Well, you explain it to me. Explain to me why second law of thermodynamics says we can't have an atmosphere next to the vacuum of space. And they'll not be able to explain it.
Because it'll suck it all off. That's what Mark said. It'll all be sucked away.
Yeah, but I bet he didn't use any science. I bet he didn't use any terminology about thermodynamics.
There was no terminology. Yeah. I said to him, and I caught him twice, I think it was, and the first time he admitted it, I says, man, you're just using terms quickly. We were talking about the double slit experiment. And it's like, it doesn't exist to the look. And I was like, no. What they do is they have a probability graph, and it's a graph of where it possibly could be, and when you measure it, you find out where it is. It's going to be on that probability gradient. It's going to be there somewhere. No. Okay, I did that for your audience.
Did he say the double slit experiment doesn't exist, or
no, the particles or whatever? I can't remember exactly what it was, but he was wrong. You know, he was clearly wrong. Yeah. I pointed it out at the time that he was wrong, and then he admitted that he did it. I says you're just using colloquial terms rather than the actual terms that these people use. And they oh yes, well that was just for your audience.
Oh God. Well, no, they're an interesting. Well, even a lot of flat earthers look at Mark Sargent and don't trust him, don't they? And all that infighting between them. Who's a shill? Who's not a shill? To me, that's fascinating.
Yeah, I totally wanted to get into the Patricia thing, but I didn't get a chance.
Oh God, yeah. That was. Did you see Behind the Curve?
I did. I only watched it once, and I've watched it about 50 times. But as I said to Mark, I think Logan Paul's scum. But I think his was better because they genuinely believed that this mad Egypt was one of them.
Yeah, that was brilliant. I mean, the documentary he put out afterwards, after the convention. Sorry, we broke up though. You did mention Logan Paul, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah, it broke up my mind a little bit. I thought if I'm talking about Logan Paul and you mention somebody else, I'm going to look a bit daft. But yeah, the documentary you put out afterwards, I was expecting something a bit better. It was a little bit
it was super cringy, and the last shot at the end, like the Shawshank Redemption, was bad. But they had him so convinced. They were like putty in his hand. Was it Robert, the guy with the glasses at the convention at the start? Couldn't have been. I couldn't tell where Robert ended and fucking Logan Paul's ass began. It was.
It was classic trolling. That it really was. It was hilarious. They would have thought, we're about to hit mainstream. We're going to become big time.
Nope.
I mean, I feel for the guys, but at the same time, it's funny. It is funny.
Well, if you're going to put yourself out there and make stupid statements, be open to people telling you that's fucking stupid.
Yeah.
And if you can't back it up with at least your own, some sort of justification that's based in reality, rather than just screaming at people. Like, you can be wrong in your evidence and you can be mistaken and you can believe what you want, but you need to give some justification other than you're wrong. I don't know what it is, but you're wrong.
Exactly, and I wouldn't mind so much if it was somebody who sat down and said, you know what, I believe the earth is flat and I don't really know the science massively, but it's just what I think. Okay. That's one thing. But when you get people actively telling people you should believe that the earth is flat and then them not being able to explain it because they don't understand the science, to me, that's not acceptable. If you're going to try and convince somebody of something that's going to change their life like that, you've got to know what you're talking about. And not one of them has a clue what they're talking about.
No, we actually have I'm friends with a person who has a channel, a wee art channel called Nezlover, Nezlover. And they usually turn up for most of my streams. They're not here tonight, probably because it's you and they're a flat earther. But I didn't know that they were a flat earther until a wee bit down the line. Having the conversation in their live chat when they're live and stuff and back and forth. I knew they were religious, but I only recently found out that they were flat earth. They were all excited about Mark coming on. I was like, all right, you're a flat earther. All right, dead on. Doesn't push it. It's just what they believe. They're just going to go with it.
Yeah. But, I'm happy when people can believe whatever, but it's when your beliefs start to negatively impact other people's lives and you can't justify why you're trying to push that on people. That's when, for me, it becomes fit for mockery. But other than that, there's people, and I'll not name any names, but there are people I'm in email contact with who've seen my videos. They don't have YouTube channels, or they've got very small YouTube channels. They don't try and convince other people. They don't preach anything. And we get on like a house on fire over email. Because they are just people at the end of the day, aren't they? But the ones that feel they've got to push it on other people and, without having any understanding of what they're talking about, to me, I'm not so keen on.
And a lack of want to go and actually find out. A lack of desire to go and improve themselves. I love to learn, man. It's enjoyable to learn. Obviously, I can't learn to a certain height now and a certain level. I'm too late in my life to get to where you are now. But I enjoy learning different topics, things like that. I'm trying to persuade a friend of mine to teach me HTML. I learned a wee bit of JavaScript. I made an Irish bot that it was like a trigger bot for Discord. It just give people shit. That's all it did. But it's nice to learn and improve yourselves. And if you think that the fucking world has got droppity, take a bit of time and go and fucking research. That's not hard to figure out.
Hit the nail on the head. I've always said, make your argument from an educated standpoint. If you want to argue the second law of thermodynamics says we shouldn't have an atmosphere next to space, make it from an educated standpoint and go and learn what the second law of thermodynamics actually is. Learn how we use it to make predictions. Learn the Boltzmann equation, how we apply it. Learn the proper terminology and how it came about. And then tell us that it says we shouldn't have an atmosphere next to the vacuum of space. Until you can do that, don't mention it.
An awful lot of the internet and clickbait as well. Information that is released at a paper level, peer reviewed, and then media sensation kicks in. They take one line out of it and run with it, and then everything gets dumbed down for the public, right? We are all laymen, as we said before. People spend 30 years on these topics, so it has to be brought to a layman's level for us at a certain point. But don't read Wikipedia. Read the references at the bottom. Just that one extra step.
How far would you get in life if all you read in a newspaper was the headlines? How far would you? You'd misinterpret everything. And exactly, you've hit the nail on the head.
It's just silly. We'll blame Facebook. Generally, we blame me. We have a hashtag blame MathPig. Anything goes wrong, just hashtag blame me. Well, we're running up at the end of the hour, man. If you're up for it, I know there's a few people that would like to jump in and have a wee chat, and I'm sure Bill would like to come in and say hi. If anyone can think of any questions coming up, or any questions for Catz or myself, man, have you anything you want to ask me?
I will have. I absolutely will have. In fact, give us because I'm massively interested in some of the other people you spoke to and how that's all come about and what your plans are and what have you. Is that a good time for that?
Yeah, well, if you want, we've got 10, 15 minutes before we hit the end of the hour, or we could leave it for the after party. It's your show, man. Talk about yourself if you want, like, you know.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll formulate some, because I am interested about it. I want to formulate the questions properly. Right. So we'll have a, shall I put it in the after party and we'll shoot the breeze? Yes. I wouldn't mind talking about the virus a little bit, but then again, it's your show. You tell us where you're the driver. You tell us where we're going.
At the end of the day, man, this is just a platform for us to get to know people, and I do want to know more about you. You know, as I say, I only watch yourself and Creaky, and I don't really do the flat earth thing that much. I do like your comedy, as we discussed, with the having a conversation with yourself, who's actually Dale, can be quite funny. It's childish, but it's fun, you know, and it's your laid back attitude that I appreciate. And yeah, man, just if you've something to say, this is the place to say it.
Oh, you know what? I've got nothing profound to say. Nothing I've ever said has been profound or important.
Oh man, but, if you hadn't been if this wasn't your first time in the show, I would kick you and bring you back in again. That's like a thing. Oh, you're useless. Get out the fuck. And then I bring them straight back again. But no. Right. Well, that's what we'll do. If nobody's popping, we've got one question from Sal. Where's Mark Sargent now? No. Where's my Mark Sargent? He is. I don't know what that is. Do your students know that you have a channel? Good point, Dave.
Yeah, they do. They do. It came about by accident because one of the other teachers in the school was subscribed and they'd been watching some more videos. And you know how it pops up in your suggested feed next to your videos?
Yes.
Well, they had the projector on in front of a class, and they went to show an educational YouTube video, and then my big ugly face popped up next to it. And then obviously it went around school like that. That was about 8 to 10 months ago. And to be honest, after the first month, they didn't, nobody mentions it. Every now and then I'll get somebody shouting space comma at me down the corridor, or I'll get somebody saying, "Oh, when you go out?"
Space comma. Oh,
that's
man.
it.
People who don't know, do you want to explain space comma? There you go. You can finish up with a funny story about space comma.
Space comma. Well, thing is, space comma wasn't an invention of mine, right? I got an email, not an email. I got a comment from a flat earth, and it was really abusive. But he had such poor grammar throughout the whole thing, and he was leaving a space before every bit of punctuation. And I read it out in a silly voice, and I emphasised the space in front of every comma. I read it out in my daft voice, and space comma, and I think he did about 10 of them, and then the next thing I know, people are typing like space comma in the chat, and then there's a YouTuber called Your Pal Al. I think that guy's hilarious. You were with him? Do you know him?
Sorry, is that the blacksmith guy that made it for you, isn't it?
Oh no, that's Julian HG. No, this is going back ages ago. Your Pal, he just puts together short little satirical things, and he redid. I think it was the beginning of Star Trek, with all the music, but instead of being Star Trek, it was like he just had space comma, and he turned it into a thing. So I've got to credit him for that, really. Like, he turned it into a thing, and then I got an email from somebody a while ago saying they've got it in the Urban Dictionary. So if you Google space comma Urban Dictionary, it's actually in there.
I can do that right now. There's actually a bot in my Discord. I just need to type in .ud space comma. That's it.
I forget what it says, but it's in there. What does it say?
Is it space and then a space then comma, or is it all one word?
I'm gonna have a look. I think it's just the word space, and then just the word comma.
It is.
Yeah, here we go. First hit.
Is a satirical taunt demonstrating the poor use of grammar that Flat Earth believes frequently used on comment threads on internet message boards. It has become a very well-known joke amongst the community and is used when quoting a flat earther who has typed a space before a comma punctuation mark. And it's space and then space comma.
Kind of took a life of its own, that. But that made me chuckle. But yeah, I think the subscribers kind of turned that into something. It was never, I didn't even know what I was doing. I was just reading it out, and the subscribers grabbed hold of that, and next thing I know, I'm doing it from them, and they turned it into the meme it is.
Yeah, there's a running joke about a real short version. Everybody knows it. I got a new fireplace surround. It's solid oak. It's a big thing, and I asked my mum to hold it while I took a picture of it. I sent it to the girlfriend. They were all asking why asked my mother to hold my wood and then sent a picture of it to my girlfriend, and that took off. And now you can buy a mug in my merch store that has my icon on one side and my mum held my wood on the other. Just run with it. It's good fun. Right, well, on that note, we'll round up. I've posted the link to the after party in the chat. We'll see you all there in 5 minutes. You can all go get a cup of tea or a wee pee break or whatever needs to be done. And we'll see you back there in a wee minute. Catz, man, thank you very much for coming on. Really appreciated the conversation.
No, thank you. See you soon.